Oh my gosh, we are here. NFL Week 1 Thursday Night Football Showdown DFS. Let's take a look at this coming game Thursday night. The Chiefs versus the Ravens. First game of the 2024 NFL season. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month. That gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS, the best ball. You get it all. One spot, one low price. Now, let's get into this slate and see what we're going to cover up. As always, please like, comment, subscribe to the video. Gives us just more reach and more ability to give away as much we possibly can, content-wise, for free. Now, we got a big-time matchup here. We got Ravens versus the Chiefs, the first game of the NFL season. We will be going over both FanDuel and DraftKings. Now, let's start with the quarterback position. Neither of these guys need any type of introduction. We got Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Patrick Mahomes last year, I'm going to kind of throw that one away because his receivers were awful. Rashid Rice did step up and helped them big time, but we didn't see many of the ceiling games we're used to from Mahomes. The team as a whole just leaned on the run more than it has before. And that's just a giant difference from what we've seen out of this Kansas City Chiefs team in the past. Now, the big change there is their defense was very, very good. While I still think their defense is going to be solid, they're not going to be quite as solid. They did lose Snead on the outside. It's just definitely going to hurt their pass coverage a little bit. So I like Mahomes. I'm in on him. I want to have some Mahomes. They added Worthy. They added Hollywood Brown, who's not going to be in this game. So as a whole for the season, I do like them. Now, with that being said, this first game, Worthy may not play a ton. We very well could just have pretty much the same offensive team as we had last year with them. I expect Rashid Rice to play a ton. I expect Travis Kelce to play a ton. Both of those guys are solid. But if Worthy isn't playing a lot because it's his first game as an NFL rookie, then we pretty much have the same receiving core as we did last year, which makes it where I don't absolutely love Mahomes. Now, the Ravens defense is solid, but this game is going to be high scoring, so I think you can absolutely consider Mahomes, but he is not my favorite quarterback in this game. My favorite quarterback in this game does have to be Lamar Jackson. The guy can just hit 30 too easily for me not to love it, and he's got a healthy Mark Andrews now. Zay Flowers is in his second year. They drafted some more wide receiver help. They also have Derrick Henry to take even more load off Lamar Jackson. Now, the Derrick Henry addition does scare me a little bit for Lamar Jackson's rushing upside, but all in all, I like Lamar Jackson in this spot quite a lot. And we know they're going to have to score some points. I would rather side with Lamar Jackson and his rushing upside than I would Patrick Mahomes. I think it's an interesting game, and ownership on these two is very similar. Both are very healthy. The other thing is that Lamar Jackson is the underdog, so if they are down a little bit, they may be forced to throw a little, and Lamar Jackson is better in scramble situations than designed runs. So let's get over to running back. So running back is an interesting situation here. We got Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry are the two RB1s. Pacheco, very high owned, 47%, whereas Derrick Henry is 29%. I do think that's wrong. I would way rather have Derrick Henry in this spot than Isaiah Pacheco. One thing that I do have to mention with the Chiefs running back situation, Samaje Perine was signed to the Chiefs, and he's only been with them for a couple weeks now. So there's a very good chance that this Chiefs team really leans on Isaiah Pacheco, and that Perine isn't fully brought up to speed yet. I do think he plays, but I think he probably plays a limited amount of snaps. So I do think Pacheco is very interesting. I think he gets 70% of the work or so. And if you want to rely on a Chiefs running back, he is 100% the one to rely on. Now, I like Derrick Henry a little bit more. I just think he has more touchdown upside, more yardage upside. And I like the spot for him in this situation. If you wanted to go for, a cheap guy, I do think Carson Steele is kind of interesting. He could be playing as, he's going to likely play a little bit of a hybrid of fullback and / running back in this situation, and likely kind of play as RB2 in some spots where Perine maybe isn't that comfortable with the playbook right here. So I think Steele at, the dead minimum of 200 is a little bit interesting. The fact that we have a projection of 4 on him should show a little bit, and 10% owned in a showdown is pretty low owned, and I don't mind taking some shots there. Justice Hill is here also. They do say that he is going to be involved a little bit in this game plan, or at least, as a running back too. So he could get some work. I do think 4,400 is a little bit high for him with how much he's going to work. Now, going over to wide receiver. Our highest owned wide receiver is Rashee Rice. He should be. The guy is a stud. He had a huge season last year, and I expect more of that this year. We have a 3.5 star alert score on him. I think he's in a good spot, and I do not mind whatsoever getting quite a lot of Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy. He is the rookie for the Chiefs. Now, the one thing we don't know here is how much he is going to play. Andy Reid in the past has been very slow to bring rookie receivers on. Most rookie receivers do not play as much as Rashee Rice did last year. Now, we're not totally sure how much Reid loves him. We know that he got a lot of work in preseason. He showed some flashes. Andy Reid, doesn't typically like to lean on rookies, though, and that is my issue. That is what I said a little bit ago when talking about going over Patrick Mahomes, is I do worry how much Worthy is going to play. If he plays a lot, 5,500 is an absolute steal. The guy has game-breaking ability, game-breaking speed and Patrick Mahomes, we know, absolutely goes together. So there is some interest here, but watch throughout the week, watch news on how much he may play. Next, we got Zay Flowers, year 2. This is another guy that had a great rookie season, and we are facing a Chiefs team that does not have Snead anymore. So while the Chiefs absolutely were dominant versus WR1s last year, that's not the same situation this year. They are not going to be quite as good. They might be fine, but they are not going to be studly versus them as they were last year. The year before last, the Chiefs were just giving it up nonstop to wide receiver 1, and I would expect that to be more of the situation this year. So I love the Zay Flowers spot here. Justin Watson, I personally expect him to pick up snaps with 1, Hollywood Brown out, and 2, Xavier Worthy likely not playing the full allotment of snaps that he could. I think Watson is a great dart throw Chiefs wide receiver to use. Now, we're getting into the weeds here because we have, the wide receiver 2, 3, 4, whatnot for both teams. Nelson Aguilar has been around the team, knows what's going on, and I don't mind going him. He looks to be the wide receiver 3. Pretty much all these guys are dart throws, though. Now, I don't mind taking any of them, and I would say you definitely need to consider them at least, for the reason being touchdowns are everything in Showdown, and it's just not likely that the only guys that gets touchdowns are Rashee Rice, Derrick Henry, Pacheco, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. There's going to be a touchdown that we don't expect. So you need to look at these guys further down the depth chart and try and figure it out. Maybe it is Carson Steele for the Chiefs backup running back. Maybe it is Rashad Bateman, who is way overpriced at $5,200. But if he gets a touchdown, you're going to have him. So you need to look at all these guys. Wide receiver 2 is definitely Bateman. He is only 1.6x, though. You don't love that spot. Aguilar has a penchant for getting in the end zone. He knows how to get in the end zone. It's interesting. Then you have Sky Moore and McCall Hardman. If Worthy's not playing his full allotment of snaps, those guys are going to get run, and I would absolutely love to have a little bit of them in that situation, especially at super low owned, and everybody is just totally forgetting about him. Moving on to tight end, we got Travis Kelce, we got Mark Andrews. Absolutely the two marquee tight ends in the league. Travis Kelce needs no introduction. He has been absolutely crushing it for years and years now. And he also made a comment today that they're not limiting him snaps. He wouldn't even allow it if they were. So I think we can expect Kelce to be full go. Now, I do think 9,600 is pretty steep for him when you consider that Rice is 7,600 and Pacheco is 8,400. At this point in the game, I do think Rashee Rice is kind of the first option, where Kelce is probably the second option. Maybe they're just 1A, 1B, but still in that situation, he should not be this much more expensive. And I think 5,700 might be, 57% owned might just be too high owned for me. Mark Andrews, 6,400. I think that's an absolute smash. I love the price point and the fact that he isn't as high owned. I'm fully ingrained to going that way. Now, one thing I will say is Isaiah likely didn't play much in the preseason. Typically something that is only happened to starters. So if likely is playing more, maybe he plays a little of the slot this year. Maybe they run 2 tight ends with likely and Andrews out there, which I don't totally expect, but you know, who knows what they're going to do. Likely does become interesting. We saw that he does have some upside. He can get targets. When it was just him, he was making things happen. So I'm absolutely a little bit intrigued with some likely. I just wouldn't go overboard. I think him pushing 30-40% owned is probably a bit too high in the situation that we really don't know the role that he's going to be playing. But at 2,600, taking some shots on him absolutely makes interesting. Makes sense. It is just boom bust. Does he get a touchdown or not? Chiefs, Ravens, both defenses you can play. Look, defense, when it comes to these games, is a total roll of the dice. If one of them gets a touchdown or a special teams touchdown, they're going to do well, and you're going to need them. Both these defenses are going to be pretty much unowned because everybody is scared of the offenses, which totally makes sense, but you got to factor in touchdowns at some point. And both the defenses are good enough. Both of them are Super Bowl caliber and can get these teams to the Super Bowl. Both of them need to be considered when they're such low owned and provide some leverage. Then we have the kickers, Butker and Tucker. Obviously, they're in play also. If we have a lower scoring game, you may need those kickers. If it's a super high scoring game, you may need them because they're getting some, at least field goals every time down the field. So can't X them out, but they're definitely interesting. Getting over to FanDuel, we won't go position by position quite as much, but I will try to run down some plays that I like here. FanDuel is a little bit it was a little bit different, where everybody just stays the same cost for the MVP spot. So it makes it a little easier to kind of only have your studs in the lineups. On quarterback, Jackson's less, and I like him more. There we go. Running back, $14.50 for Derrick Henry versus $12.50 for Pacheco. That's a big difference. And I think Pacheco definitely gets the nod in this situation. However, if Derrick Henry is only, say 20, 30% owned and Pacheco's 50, give me some Derrick Henry. I mean, that price difference is just wild. Derrick Henry with the new team, he's going to want to show out. He's going to want to show his new team what he can do. Wide receiver wise, Zay Flowers is the one ownership wise that is being forgotten, and he should not be. He is a stud. All in all, what this is telling us going through ownership right now on FanDuel is people like the Chiefs more. I don't necessarily think that is true. I think this is going to be a good game. Either team can win this. The Ravens are winning. You're going to want some Zay Flowers. You're going to want some of their wide receivers. So definitely interested in that. Tight end wise, $3K more than Andrews is Kelsey. At $1,400, he is $4K more than Rashee Rice. I have a very hard time paying that much more for Kelsey than going Rice. Gray, Andrews, both extremely interesting. And obviously defenses are in as well. All in all, this slate is super, super interesting. Judging by ownership, I think people are slamming the Chiefs, and I just don't necessarily think that is the best thing. I'm probably going to have a little more Ravens than I will Chiefs, and hope that the Ravens win the game, and then my lineups have some leverage on everybody else. That'll do it for us today, guys. Good luck. So stoked to be back for NFL Week 1. Let's go.